Welcome to On the Couch, round 23 in the books. 1 week to go with a small asterisk with the Wednesday game in round 24, and the finals mix is still up for grabs, and the finals mix hasn't been settled with some big games coming on Super Sunday. The boys are all in town and Leigh is here. And Leigh, when you're in town, we always start with your observation.
Lots happened in 2 weeks. I was only here 2 weeks ago, and of course all the coaching landscape has changed. I mean, we spoke to Ken Hinkley on the weekend. He's acted the role brilliantly. He's got his money, so that's the tick. But it's been a tough year.
He's earned it.
Well, he's earned it. It's been a really tough. The saga's been really tough. And I thought for the first time, the second last post-game press conference, obviously they got badly beaten by Carlton, he admitted how tiring and exhausting this year had been. So he's done a great job, but gee, emotionally it's been really draining. And of course, Melbourne changed coaches, or not changed coaches yet. I've just the king is dead. Long live the king. We don't know who the next king is. It might be over here sitting on the left. We don't know. We'll find out.
I thought you had an exclusive there for
the thing that really interests me, every now and again a club comes to the stage where they think they need a new coach. It's not better, it's new. They need someone different, and Melbourne have obviously come to that conclusion. But they either headhunt somebody and try and talk them into doing the job, or they run the process, which is what they seem to be doing. But the thing that always hits me whenever there's a new coach, so what the footy department's 30 or 40 people. So high performance is a group activity. So this thought that you change one person, the senior coach, that's going to change everything. It gives you a fresh start, and there's a good thing about the fresh start. I just always wonder, the future seems to me that a coach will have maybe a high-performance team he works with, like a head of conditioning. Mate, like when I went to Brisbane, lucky enough, 25 years ago now it was, when I went to Brisbane and I was headhunted, which meant they gave me ultimate say on what I wanted to do with the football department. The football department was 12 people. There was 8 new people. 7 others and myself came in that we were able to. Graham Allen came up as the footy manager, and then we recruited Gary O'Donnell and a lot of others. And I just think having your group is so critical. And if you go through the process, unfortunately, you'll inherit whatever's there. And then maybe you'll start looking at what happens over the next 12 months. But initially, I don't think you'll have the authority, Bucks, you might, the authority to bring in your group.
We're not doing an open mic episode, but this is relative, potentially to you. But was that the difference as to why you came back to coaching as a second round? Because you essentially got carte blanche on the program? Well,
ultimately, they'll pay me a fair bit of money. That was a fair incentive. but that aside, even that I knew about for about a month before I eventually agreed to do it. And when I had the conversation, OK, you've got to let me, in a sense, oversee the football operation. Like the footy department, as I say, was 12 people, so you haven't got not a massive amount of people. But the concept, I reckon, having your people, like even Chris Fagan, he inherited the assistants at the Lions, but gradually Cameron Bruce came in. The other people, different people have been recruited, Dale Morris. But being able to do that from the very beginning is an enormous advantage to whoever the new coach will be.
There's been some rumblings around Melbourne for sort of 12 to 24 months around the superstar players there, and some of them wanting to leave. Sorry, Christian Petrarca's name has come up again. What advice would you give for the incoming coach around the list?
I wouldn't even be looking at the list. I'd be more interested in saying, are you prepared to give me what I think we need to be the best off-field operation? And I reckon for those of us who sit in the break row of the grandstand, if you're not at Melbourne, you don't know the players well enough to be making, I think, big decisions. I would be going in, you look at the list for a year, but just if it's a limbo year, fine, then you know the players and then you decide which ones do we want to go with. Are we prepared to trade this? I'm never big on trading your best players for draft picks. That's kind of trading for the unknown.
I noticed the Bucks just leant in a little bit more when you were talking about that, Leigh.
We all listen, mate.
You just leant in a little bit more, actually.
Just quickly, though, the timing. Did you think, was it odd timing for Melbourne? To sack a coach with 3 weeks to go when there's no other competition, there's no other clubs in the race for a coach?
Well, I've said a few times, I mean, the whole Melbourne operation's unstable. So anyone who takes the Melbourne coaching job, either you've got the faith that stability is coming. Of course, at the moment, it's not there.
There you go. Well, it has been a big news day in the AFL world, and the biggest news comes from the St Kilda Football Club as they breathe a sigh of relief A superstar has signed on and John Ralph has the latest with the contract.
Hello, Jack. A seismic day in the AFL landscape. So Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera has beaten the likes of Darcy, the likes of Harley Reid as the AFL $2 million man. $2 million a season over the next 2 years to 2027. As much as he decided that he loved Ross Lyon and he loved the potential flag window ahead, he told his manager Ben Williams today, "I just could not leave my teammates. I could not go back and depart away from them." So St Kilda came to him midway through last year and asked for about $750,000 per year for a long-term extension. Williams told him that time was his friend, that the offers would come. If he had that light bulb moment, if he wanted a side mid-year, then he absolutely would get that deal done for him. Instead, he played extraordinary football and literally his price rose by about $100,000 a week. Now, the likes of Port Adelaide offering $2 million plus on long-term deals, Adelaide about $1.7 million. So not only will St Kilda have the highest paid player in the game next year, it will have the second highest as well in Tom Niconing on an estimate of about $1.8 million. Now, it'll be right on 20% of the salary cap, which will be $18.3 million. So that's 50% on top of the highest average salary this year for players like Christian Petracca. It is extraordinary money. But I spoke to St Kilda's Triple Brownlow medalist and 1966 flag hero Ian Stewart today. This was his take. This is the biggest signing at St Kilda since Darryl Baldock in 1962, which of course laid the platform for that flag. So maybe it's hyperbole, maybe it's recency bias, but this is a magnificent day for the St Kilda Football Club.
It certainly is, Ralphie. And Leigh, the
I think
heroics...
Nick Rewald has just fainted.
Well, maybe
I think he was a pretty big signing when you look back on it.
Some very good players there, Robert Harvey. But Leigh, his heroics of late, it's really come to the floor that, as Ralphie said then, we were talking midway through last season, multiple years at $750, and now he's getting a 2-year deal at $2 million a season.
He's the ultimate shooting star, isn't he? He finished fifth in their club championship last year, and he was probably a $1 million player before the Melbourne game. And all of a sudden, that heroics in late in the Melbourne game, when he sort of won them with that just fantastic last 5 minutes. Now he's 1.5, and then when De Koning was getting 1.7, well, all of a sudden, he had to go to 2. It's just been an amazing rise, hasn't it?
It really has. It would have ripped the heart out of the club if he left.
Definitely.
Yeah. It was so important that you can understand why they just kept going up and up and up. And like Leigh said last week, or a couple of weeks ago, Leigh, when you were on, it's important that your best player is the highest paid player.
Yep.
Which is what he's become now. Because if he was on 1.4, 1.5 even, and TDK comes at, let's say, that 1.7, 1.8 figure, yeah, you've got to be a question.
Who at St Kilda might have the disgruntles just purely on the salaries? Who's next?
Cal Wilkie's been mentioned as
Because,
someone potentially.
yeah,
Like, for what he's
But
done.
then did he turn
consistency.
it? But when he was asked, didn't he say that wasn't a fact?
Yeah, Box, he's saying
what-
words.
that's
What's
what
he
you're
really feeling? That's
Well,
what
who knows?
It will be interesting, a bit of byplay. Are you comfortable, if you're in charge of St Kilda, are you comfortable with 20% of your salary cap being taken with 2 players?
No, is the short answer. I don't know. I
What
grew up-
choice do they have, though?
Yeah, I know, and I think they were stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if he goes, well, then you sort of lose hope in the immediate sort of future. But there has to come a period where, at what cost? I think, and a lot of the we keep talking about premiership teams that have been able to stay together for a long period of time. These aren't necessarily the signings that happen. They just aren't.
But you got to consider at what cost would it have been if he had gone. Like, there would have been more cost, I think, to the club in the short term, negatively.
In terms of just fans being disgruntled?
Just
even
belief within the playing group. Belief within you're just talking about the structure around the players, the staff, the performance team, everyone, the administration. We haven't got as much to sell if he's not there. So I think this is, and the fact that it's 2 years is great, because there's some form of time frame.
Does that not make you feel uneasy?
No,
it's not longer?
No, I think that gives you 2 years to go really hard with the playing group, with this club, to sell into it, to see what you can build in 24 months is a long time. And you've got that time in a lead into next season as well. And he had the choice. He had the choice to go. He chose to stay. You don't play that for as much as you possibly can. 2 years at $2 million. Yeah, I'm not sure that he would come back much, but if he ended up signing a longer-term deal with the club, then he'd probably be taking into account which teammates have I got coming along with me. So there might be a bit of a chat in that.
I think it becomes a more attractive club for players to sign at, whether it be the players that are at St Kilda or players to potentially go there now, going future. That's a domino to fall. Really important domino.
Yeah, I think I'm positive about it. Like, I sort of sit in that camp as well. But in terms of the overall picture about trying to win premierships and trying to get other players who might potentially come up.
And what you've lived as well.
In terms of free agents. And you're probably the same. I know Tom Lynch was on a big buck, which sort of made you a little bit angry when he came to the club. But in terms of actually...
Talking about it,
he was on a little buck when I was there. He was on a little buck.
Do you not think in terms of adding other players that could potentially come up in free agency, you are a little bit handcuffed? Because a lot of your money now would be tied up between two players. So you are really only relying on kids that come through that might improve your list to become a premiership team.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I'll probably use the Brisbane example as a case study, what happened probably 8 or 10 years ago. Now, Leigh obviously knows what's going on behind the scenes a bit more because he's on the board there, but when they got the dominoes to fall, Hodgie goes there, then all of a sudden they get Dunkley, Cameron, Danaher and Lockie Neal. Like, they're big signings and on big money. And look how successful that club has been. 10 years ago, Brisbane looked like a hopeless club. Yep. That no one wanted to go to. And all of a sudden, a bit of hope happened. And then it just built and built and built. And obviously a lot of other factors, including the coach, Chris Fagan, his influence on the club. But, you know, look at them now. Yeah. They are now a destination club. So I think St Kilda, hopefully, will be able to build towards
on
that.
The back of that.
All Saints fans will be hoping they do become a destination club. And, Ralphie, some monster news which you broke last night as an exclusive. The Adelaide star, Izak Rankine, is set for a lengthy ban on the sidelines.
That's right. So Izak has been interviewed by the AFL's integrity team this afternoon. And as we speak, Adelaide will desperately try and haggle this down to a 3-week ban for that homophobic slur against his opponent on Saturday night. I don't think that's going to wash. I think even the Crows would acknowledge that a 4 or 5 week ban is headed his way, which will effectively end his season. I can tell you tonight that Rankine did not self-report as a result of the events of that Saturday night incident. Collingwood players were aware of it post-match. There was a discussion about it. Collingwood and Adelaide spoke across Sunday afternoon. That was initiated by Collingwood, and then Adam Kelly, the Adelaide football boss, escalated to the integrity team. So he didn't come forward post-match. He certainly didn't have fits of regret and then call anyone in the next 24 hours. He did, in his interview, speak about his contrition, his apology on Sunday to that player involved and the extenuating circumstances. But the base sanction here is 5 weeks. Even Jack Graham, who self-reported and got 4, was extremely lucky. So I just can't see any way in which Rankine receives a 3-week ban. I don't think the AFL will do it. I don't think the AFL industry or the wider community would accept it. Now, again, it could be 4 weeks, and if they lose a qualifying final and go the hard way through, he might be playing again. But it seems like he's likely played his last game this season.
That is a big, big price to pay at an important time. 5 weeks. It cannot be anything other than 5 weeks.
Well, I think the cynics, if you gave him 4 weeks, the cynics would say the AFL's giving him a chance, which he doesn't deserve. So that's why I think it probably would be 5 weeks just to take that off the table, especially when there's form there with Will Powell, who had a 5-week suspension.
It's a rinse and repeat from Will Powell. Same language, same sort of...
Well, that's right. And because of the recency of the incidents, you can't say the players haven't been warned about it. So it just... couldn't be in the vocabulary at all. It just couldn't be part of what happens out in the footy field. So very disappointing.
The precedence is the 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. You always wondered if you were starting again, what should penalties for this kind of thing be? Like, should it be...
Well, what do you think it should be?
Well, I just think to myself, is this where a big fine as well? Like, in other words, OK, there's 5 weeks. It's a relative thing, but is it like a $50,000 fine and a couple of weeks suspension? Like, you know, a significant fine as well as weeks.
Did you think that would be more of a deterrent than just the 5 weeks?
Well, it's already a deterrent, but the words slip out and then you've got to, you know, do the crime, you do the time. But I just wonder if in terms of what's a fair penalty for things like this, as we know, to get 4 or 5 weeks for a physical indiscretion, geez, you'd want to knock someone in the next week to get 5 weeks, wouldn't you? Yeah. So it's a big number of weeks in terms of the on-field suspensions, but whether a big fine and a few less weeks is a reasonable way of looking at it.
Well, I don't want it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's hard to defend a player when he's used that type of language on the field. But I think exactly what Damien Harvick was saying on 360. The precedence has been set, so there's no way that we could come back. I like the alternative, absolutely. Less weeks out on the field, but more of financial sanction. Now, would that be a bigger deterrent? I don't know.
How would the public go with that, though?
I think either way they would be in uproar.
Suspensions seem more powerful, though, to the public, don't they? Now, this is obviously a public perception.
Depending on the size of the financial.
But like your $50,000, talking a big one.
A lot.
A big one.
I know, but we've just been talking about players on $2 million.
Not every player's on $2 million.
Yeah, I know, but the perception is that all these players are on over $1 million. There is a perception out there that these players are earning massive money. So it would have to be
50 large is 50 large. It's a big
long
cross play
time
with
ago
bucks.
now. Long time ago now since the outside bled across the white line and vice versa. So it's not as if the players that take the field now or that represent their clubs or the league, it's not as if they're not understanding of the bigger impact that it has on the wider society. And I commend the AFL for what it's been able to build, for what it's done. It was inevitably going to get to a situation like this. I bet, like Rankine would be beside himself, with the mistake that he's made. It's going to cost his team, it's going to cost his club, and it's going to cost him. This one's going to really sting.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the impact that it's going to have on Adelaide's chances. It looks like they will finish first with a double chance and the potential to play 2 finals at home, which gets them to the MCG on that last Saturday in September. How big of an impact is this going to have on Matthew Nicks and the Adelaide Crows?
Oh, you double that with Rochelle as well. So they're 2 small forwards. But I think the position that he's certainly played post-bye has been more forward, and they've been a lot more dangerous in that particular part of the ground. So he's one of the most exciting players in the competition. He adds a lot in terms of where he plays and the scoreboard impact that happens around this Adelaide Football Club. So absolutely he'll hurt. They'll finish, as Brownie said, first on the AFL ladder after the home and away season. But I just can't help to think that without him, they don't win it.
But he's a genuine match winner. We've seen it in the last 2 weeks. You know, that particular goal and his performances against Hawthorn. And then you put in, like, when the game needed to be won to get over the line against West Coast last week, it was he and Thilthorpe that got it done in the last quarter. So he has been and is a genuine match winner. He's been used predominantly as a forward in recent times. But when break glass in case of emergency, go into the midfield and give us something. You miss that, leave it a pull now. Now, if Rochelle comes back in, that might be timely, similar role, but probably hasn't played it as well as Rankine.
He's unlikely to make it. You're right, hasn't been consistent. I think last year it's a reason they didn't make the finals. He only played 15 games. This year's been true. He's probably, along with Thilthorpe, the 2 most important players. I know Dawn's the key.
Yeah. You say they can't win it without him. Just quickly round the couch. Can they win it without Izak Rankine?
I think they've got enough momentum to be able to carry it.
So they can?
I think they can, but
Brownie?
they'd be much better chance with him.
They can, but I don't think they will.
What about you, Leigh?
Yeah, they still can.
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp with you. I think your best player is out, and they cannot win the flag this year without Izak Rankine. And let's talk about the game. We want to talk about the actual footy that had on the weekend. And they played against Collingwood, and we spoke about Collingwood last week, Geordie, and just lamenting the fact that they had become slow and straight. And there was statistics around their speed of ball movement, but we saw a change early in the game on the weekend.
Yeah, so this sort of speed of ball movement's new to the game. We're only sort of starting to get our head around it, but it was a stark difference in the way that Collingwood were able to play, and especially in Q1. So you see that 100 being the average for every one of those markers. So speed of ball movement, distance, and distance of goal, they were through the roof, which was a good sign in terms of the way that Collingwood have been playing and being able to speed it up a little bit to really challenge Adelaide at home on their home deck. So 5 goals 3 they get from Q1, and it wasn't. Remember we showed the vision last week where they were just standing. They weren't looking inside. There was no movement. They weren't activating the parts of the ground that would mean that Adelaide had to defend not just down the line play, but certainly inside the corridor. So they got these plays. You know, Dacos started that particular passage of play, looked inboard straight away, and then that run from behind became really important. So this was Q1, and Adelaide, quite honestly, found it really hard to defend. And then we go to the second half. So once again, you're in a really sort of dangerous position, but they just weren't taking those little kicks. Like to go, that's an easy kick. Any AFL player should be able to make that kick. They don't go that. Then they go long to a contest, which then becomes a lot easier to defend. So Adelaide get numbers back. They were able to defend a little bit more. Same again. We spoke about activating those little parts. So try and engage your direct opponent. Just hit Nick Dacos. Then he can take ground with his legs, and then you're over this pack of players. Out the back, you've got these players running onto him, McQuarrie, all these types of players, Schultz coming up. So you've got more options. But just in the second half, they just failed to generate any type of speed on the ball and any aggression in terms of run from behind or ball into the corridor. So 5-3 in the first half. In the first quarter, sorry, they only scored 3 more goals for the rest of the game. So that was their challenge.
The urgency didn't come back until there was 3 minutes to go and they were trying to win it.
Then they were sparked again. So, yeah, it's, 71 inside 50s, a lot of those repeat entries in terms of 28 repeat entries. So But there were signs early that thought this might be the Collingwood back to their best.
We heard Craig McRae speak about Fremantle and their speed of ball movement in a post-game press conference. Maybe heed some of his own advice and get some speed back on the ball for the whole game. Bucks, the glaring number that everyone is focusing on is 71 inside 50s. How can you have 71 inside 50s versus 37 and lose?
Well, do you want to go and watch the game, mate? Well, pretty much.
I don't think Gary does.
They were going into congestion nearly every time they went inside 50. The first entry off a D50 exit is always pretty open. We've seen Hawthorn do that recently, Collingwood at their best, Adelaide in fact. But there was very little end-to-end ball use by either team on the weekend. But what did happen was Collingwood were, Adelaide defended particularly well. They would rebound the ball, Collingwood would turn it over and go back in. All of a sudden, there's probably an extra 2 or 3 or 4 bodies in for the second entry. Times it was coming out and going back in again, and there'd be another 1 or 2 pairs there. So you're going into congestion, which makes it more difficult to score. And I think Craig McRae spoke about that, about how short the field was and how congested it became. So it meant that you were probably going to get more inside 50s, but you were just going in to somewhere where the opposition were ready to defend.
Especially after half-time, wasn't it? The ball was wet, so it was hard to sort of kick your way through.
The question that they'd ask themselves is, does Mason Cox fit in this? If there is congestion, can you find a pocket of space where he can get up to, where would Kingy say?
No one outreaches him.
10 foot tall.
No one outreaches him, that's the point. He might mark it, but he doesn't get marked against.
He's kicked goals in a big final too, which I don't really want to...
No, we don't want to go there. But in the end, it's like, if that is the way that you're going to play, if you think that you are going to play a front half game where you're turning the ball over and going back in to congestion, and I don't think that hurts Collingwood, to be honest. I think they'd score better than they did on the weekend, but you'd have to consider where does a Mason Cox fit into that, and is he going to be the difference for us?
There has to be a lot more positives. Like, you'd be concerned as the coach, lost 5 of the last 6, but you'd be a lot more positive in Craig McRae's position coming away from the weekend than what you were the previous weeks.
Yeah. I think 71 inside 50 sells the story that they are getting in there. Mason Cox is a watch. Bobby Hill is a watch too. Didn't train today. They need him at ground level. But on the other side of 71 inside 50s, Leigh, there's got to be a very good defence that doesn't give up.
Well, absolutely. The point was, it seemed like it was a game for the last 3 quarters at least, where there was always an extra couple of defenders. When the ball was in the back 50 for Crows, they had an extra couple, then down the other end, Collingwood had an extra couple. So neither side could score really for those middle 2 quarters. But yeah, just that situation of the inside. I mean, from Craig McRae's point of view, I mean, OK, you didn't get the 4 points, but they just got beaten by a couple of points by the team on top of the ladder. So you're not walking away from Adelaide, from Collingwood's point of view, saying we had a shocker. We just didn't quite win. So I think, I mean, we know they've lost 4 of their last 5, but a couple of them, 3 of them by like a few points. So I think you just keep there's a lot of things still going OK, because they got blown off the park against Hawthorn and a little bit by the Lions, but the other games they've been right in them.
That's been exactly the message from Craig McRae post-game. One team that had a big week ahead of them, a big Friday night at home, was the Fremantle Dockers. And, Geordie, they put in an absolute shocker. And one thing that caught my eye pre-game, you look for a side to be on, and JL obviously backs defence in, is I think he may have been out-coached potentially in this first quarter.
Way?
Well, I'm looking at manning of the mark. Now, I know that seems very simple.
It used to be a good indication.
It was a good indication to get up. But what happens when you get on the mark and you get called to stand is that you cannot move. You can only affect one lane of the ball. And the Dockers did it like this in the first part of the game, is that they just got up in the man of the mark. And this is Patrick Voss now. The umpire calls him to stand. He cannot move now.
Yeah.
He can only affect Harris Andrews' kick in such a little aspect here. You look where this kick goes.
Pull 5 back.
Stay 5 back. Every single other club at the moment is going 5 back. Shea Bolton gets up. He's electric.
Yeah.
A defence weapon. But he can't influence. Sarong comes up. He can't move now.
Do you think this was a focus during the
I
game?
reckon this is 100% a focus.
But it's not just the man on the mark. It would be the players behind pushing really hard. That tells me that their intent was to take uncontested marks away.
47 against Nathan.
And it had exactly the opposite effect.
Because you become invalid on the mark now these days. Now, I probably think that the rule needs to go in general, but you can see the direction. They wanted to point, they wanted to come up, they wanted to be in the face. And as soon as you're there and you stand, Well, you know what you can affect?
The
This
rule,
bit here.
The rule was brought in because of you blokes. You blokes were exploiting the rules and it causing a lot of too much delay on the game and it was blocking the game up.
I just think they might have been our coach
right,
in that
it's
aspect.
really-
47 against, 100's always been the number for Brisbane. They took 140 uncontested.
Oh, they would have been
marks.
laughing in the coach's box, I can guarantee that. But you're right, it's reading the cues. As soon as the first person goes up to the man of mark, that is an indication for the people behind. So I don't mind the man in the mark. I get what you're saying about the movement, but for me it was the second and
Lack
third
thereof.
layer who were just weren't
Brisbane
facing the
can do
ball,
that too.
weren't energetic.
Like, when Brisbane's on, they can cut you to ribbons. We've seen that to many teams.
A lot of that stuff is easy to defend if you're on and there's a way to do it.
There's emphasised why most clubs are pulling back 5 metres from outs. Like you hear the outside 5 where you can now move.
Backing out from it, just giving more movement,
But
more
the
protection.
value of that, Jack.
No doubt.
the
Where you
lines
do
are the
protect
opposite.
as
Well,
well,
isn't that
Brandon.
good for the game, though? So it shows the players shouldn't be allowed to back out.
Well, everyone else
It's good for
isn't
the
doing
game.
it,
It was a
Brownie.
great spectacle.
Everyone else
especially for
isn't
Lions,
doing
no?
it, so you must be doing something wrong.
Zac Bailey is fantastic. So Lachie Neale's been a big out, but the great thing is Brisbane's midfield's just got so much depth. Bailey started going to the centre bounce the last couple of weeks, did 6 against Sydney. And tended 9 on the weekend. He was dynamic, wasn't he? 28 disposals, 2 goals too. Had a lot of influence of the game, 10 score involvements, 10 marks. So, he's been out a fantastic year, really consistent year. I think he'd be close to top 5 in the best and fairest. He's had a big impact and he gets a lot of his ball in the forward half, so it's really damaging ball duty.
He's an interesting player, and he's not heavily built, but his legs, balance, he breaks tackles. Rayner's got his power, he breaks tackles. Will Ashcroft gets it so quick, the tackle is almost non-existent. So the tackle breaking of the Lions, I reckon, is outstanding, but Bailey can do it, and then he runs quick and straight. So he's so destructive.
Yeah. You two watch him more so than us three. It seems like he's got better balance. Like if I'm watching Bailey from the past, he's at the stoppage and just takes off. A bit of hit, shit or bust.
Yeah.
Seems like he's hanging around a little bit more and then using his power to get out.
Yeah, he does, yeah. No, and he's kicked 31 goals. He's averaged 19 touches and a goal and a half a game. Like, that's elite numbers across the competition. So, actually, he's been pretty consistent, really. Look at the last few years, last 6 years, the top 100 rated players in the competition. Only 5 players have been there each 6 years. And, so Zac Bailey's one of them. So, he has turned up. He's been pretty consistent over the journey. There's some big names there, isn't there, boys? Some consistent players. Zac Bailey is in that group.
Amazing. Yep.
Certainly a good resume over the last 6 years. So if the Dockers, it's do or die this week. How can they get back off a performance like that?
Do you trust him?
I don't. I don't think the Dockers will make finals. I think Western Bulldogs might do a number on this week here.
There's just, I don't know, there's just something about a side when given the opportunity. It seemed like they just rolled over and it became too easy. It just looked like it was clunky. They want to be good. It seems like they're desperate to be good, but they don't know how. And that's the challenge. So they get another opportunity. Possibly their last opportunity this week against the Dogs. I'm a little bit like you. I think they might be in some trouble.
You're going to have to get a bit about Darcy and Jackson. I mean, they were terrible as a pet. They had a couple of marks between them. Jackson didn't have a clearance and he's playing as the centre square player. So on that basis, I mean, they've been pretty good at times, but they're going to want to be a lot better next week to trouble the Bulldogs.
The midfield battle becomes huge. I mean, you could just see that if Fremantle win that, their forwards will probably get a hold of the defenders and vice versa at the other end.
I think that's the problem, though, Fremantle. I don't think they're deep enough. And Brisbane do that to teams. Brisbane's got a deep midfield. Bottom Pally didn't play against them last time, so they come up against a really deep midfield. It's a challenge for them. They need Hayden Young desperately to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge part of the Sunday ticket. And you talk about huge games from the weekend. Well, it's been a blue season for Carlton, but this big blue, he bagged 7 straight on the weekend. We're going to ask Leigh Matthews next what one of his old disciples, Michael Voss, might be doing with his list in season 2026. Ageing like fine wine, Jack Gunston, the number 19. Well, it's kicked plenty of goals down there at the brown and the gold, and a career equalling 7 goals for the 33-year-old that is playing career best footy. Goes through the 60 barrier for the first time in his career, and an ex-teammate of his is sitting right next to me. Is he an All-Australian lock?
Absolutely. I know we got our man over there. He can't comment, but he told me off air he's a lot. So.
Look at the resume, though. Like, it's incredible what he's doing.
Yeah, no, it is, and I think there's so much to go into it, and we from the outside and probably people who aren't close to him don't understand what he's put in, and the results come off the back of that. So he did a camp overseas for 7 days. He's always had back issues and probably didn't push himself as much as he thought he could. So understanding your body a little bit, different voices, different ways to prepare for games, and he's come back and performed the way that he's performed over a long period of time, which is always the challenge at his age.
Do you reckon clubs now are a lot more accommodating towards older players? Now, do you think in wanting to continue their careers?
Yeah, there's no doubt that's a trend that's taking place. Think about where Taylor Walker was a couple of years ago. He was cast and found a way through that physical challenge. If you can find a way through the physical challenge, the mental and emotional application, the knowledge of self and of the game and what it requires, you can see that in Jack, the way that he plays. And it's probably more about the smarts of being able to know exactly where to run, when, how to communicate with your teammates and get it done. He's playing career best footy, and he's been asked to play a role that he's more than capable of performing, and he's doing it as well as any.
He's virtually playing the full forward role, isn't he? Like round
gloriously.
Well, yeah, but round the full forward mark, he's not getting up to the middle of the ground a whole lot.
Well,
he's playing deep.
Yeah, he's able to do it pretty easy on Stephen May. The challenge for Hawthorn is that they are in this little log jam in the 8 for the 4th position on the weekend. They missed a golden opportunity.
I can't help to sit here on Monday and just think, this was a top 4 position. So McDonald kicks that goal, right? So that's where they sit. 124.3.
Double chance.
5 minutes left, right? Still the same percentage on the ladder. 1:30 to go, and then Melbourne just unleash and kick 3 goals in 1:30. So this, for me, means that they will potentially miss the top 4. They currently sit outside it again. So you see there the difference between the two sides. So that last 1:30, I think, cost them a top 4 position in the end, which means obviously a double chance. So I'd be kicking myself if I was Sam Mitchell in the Hawthorn.
Yeah, well, I think Sam Mitchell was kicking himself because he was posed the question in the post-game press conference.
Well, you got to know.
He bristled. He really bristled at the fact. He's like, no. Like, it's actually, you could tell that had peeved him off that last night.
There's probably a little TV, you'll know, there's a little TV in the box that's probably the Fox coverage, and the live ladder flashes up, and at one point you would have looked up and gone, oh, geez, we're in the top 4 here. Yeah. And then 1:30 later go, we've just slipped down a bit. I'd be filthy. We all understand top 4 is a really important position. Double chance, give yourself a chance to have a crack at the premiership. I think it's a big miss.
But that's this week. Next week's the one that matters. And that doesn't matter really what happened in the last 3 minutes. The Lions-Hawthorn game is going to decide what happens with Hawthorn and very much what happens with the Lions.
Percentage will be a part of it in the end, I think. Yeah. So
it's
going to be a big game.
It still might be part of it. But if Hawthorn beat the Lions, they'll finish top 4.
Yeah. So
potentially.
Not potentially, they will.
Potentially, because the Gold Coast have got a couple of games, Lee, and they don't forget we've got the little asterisks from the Hurricane at the start.
I wouldn't have shown that, Lee, if I didn't know.
The Gold Coast, they had an absolute shocker on the weekend, and they were caught out by the Orange Tsunami Brownie.
Yeah, they were fantastic. So they came to play. They were outstanding in the midfield. I thought Briggs competed really well, and Callahan, Tom Green, Steve Canelio's looking good. But the way they moved the ball from defensive 50 was phenomenal, really.
4 goals from kick-ins as well.
Yeah, it was. They were good, and the Suns were a little bit off, and that's obviously why they ended up being able to score like that. They looked a bit lifeless, the Suns. They obviously had a pretty traumatic week with events off the field. But the Giants were very good, so take nothing away from them.
Yeah, having coached through the close family tragedy, it really is one of the more... Well, it's obviously that takes priority. That is absolutely the priority. If one of your players or one of your people is going through trauma in that regard, you wrap your arms around them and you do your very best to try and set up the program. But even your best efforts aren't going to get the energy back into the group. And I think that's what we saw with the Suns. They give them a bit of I think that's absolutely reasonable to understand. Having said that, the Giants did feast on them the way that they went about it.
They're extremely dangerous, the Giants. If they get they could be timing their run perfectly. If they get Stringer, if they get Daniels back, Kelly and Jack Buckley, so all elite players. So if they get them back this week and leading into finals, then Hogan, I'm not sure they play Hogan this week, maybe the first week of the finals. They're a very talented lineup across the board, no question about that. So, they were very strong. One thing I just watched during the game, and you put the energy levels aside, just the difference in two young key forwards. So,
I like this.
Ben King and Aaron Cadman against two physical defenders. Sam Taylor, elite defender. Sam Collins, an elite defender. Both physical defenders, and they really crack in and attack the men that they're playing on. Cadman competed really well. He took the physicality, he had 13 disposals, hit the scoreboard with a couple of goals, but he just kept competing all the way through. I just thought Ben King struggled in this area of the game. So Taylor went at him with his physicality, and I just wasn't able to see Ben with that physicality back that Cadman's shown towards Sam Collins. So just an area that he can work on coming into September.
Ben King is a much better forward coming at the football rather than going back and getting caught in those physical contests. So something for him to work on the final two games for the season. Essendon and Carlton this week, and Carlton have finally had another win, and Harry Mackay has hit the goalkeepers with Leigh with 7, but it sort of caught your guard a little bit.
What hit me about Carlton, I was at the game live, right, and they destroyed Port Adelaide, but de Koning was their ruckman. It seems like Pitney's been their ruckman for the last 10 weeks, hasn't it, really? And de Koning, it's not that he does a whole lot, but he's got energy at the ground level, which helps their whole ground level game to be that little bit quicker to complement the Hewitt and Cripps, etc. And, of course, Sam Walsh was back, and he is their run and carry. And you think to yourself, if de Koning had been playing ruck all year, and Sam Walsh had been available all year, I reckon the Carlton season might have been a whole lot different. And the other one, of course, was Harry Mackay, who was the one big forward. I mean, O'Keefe was down there, but he's the sort of like the backup. He's not the target. They're not going to kick the ball at him. They'll kick the ball at Mackay. But I always wonder, I know they've got into top 4, but I wonder whether Mackay and Curnow are a good partnership. I don't know, because one of them has to get upfield. And sometimes I think Mackay is a better contested player around the full forward position than maybe Curnow is. I mean, I keep hearing how Curnow's really athletic and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. It's just that those were the thoughts that popped into my mind watching the game on Saturday.
What would you do with Curnow then?
Well, I don't believe you sort of get rid of your good players to get draft choice. I said that before. But it was in my mind. I mean, the Carlton people have been able to observe this over a number of years, and they would have a view on it. So I don't think they're about to push.
What about
the difference in the numbers there, though, Leigh?
Yeah.
What about players, though, Leigh? You spoke about draft picks, but what about good players? Because they do want for a few likely types off half-back.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm not into getting rid of good players for draft jets, but I just wonder whether Carlton, if you're going to bite the bullet somewhere, of those guys that we thought, like not Cripps, not Walsh, de Koning might just walk out, so that's unfortunate for Carlton. But Mackay, and if maybe Curnow, if you're going to trade somebody of your really good players or your highly regarded ones. I think you talked about this, if I can remember, a month or two ago, Geordie, if I can recall, maybe. As I say, I'm not pushing Curnow out. All I'm saying is you got two really good forwards who I'm not positive they complement each other. That's all.
That's a good segue.
I think
Leigh.
the benefit of Mackay is he plays a second role. Like that second ruck role is really crucial. So I think that makes him more valuable to the 23 than just a standalone key forward.
Well, that could be good, bad and ugly with the trading of Charlie Curnow potentially. And we're going to go through our good, bad and uglies up next. What an honour it is to be in the good with the great Leigh Matthews. And as always, when you're in town, Leigh, you kick us off with your good, bad and ugly.
It's always very close. Josh Tracy, third quarter, the game is still alive. This is the ultimate chocolates to boiled lollies. The game was still alive.
No.
Mark takes the mark in the goal square. Great. Plays on, gets smothered. That is an unbelievable emotional downer for Fremantle and an upper for the Lions. It's not only the 6 points, that is a massive change in the fortunes of the game at the time.
You could give Jack's cousin
Brownie! Drive by. Well, Leigh, you're one of the great leaders of the game, and with great leaders need great followers, and our man Jordan Lewis is going to follow in exactly the same.
I'm going to go
the
good,
bad, the ugly.
I'm going to do it all in one hit, and this is to the Walker kids, Tex Walker's little fella. So this is great. This is the good. This is Collingwood and Nick Dacos.
His
obviously,
favourite player?
Louis there is Nick Dacos. Well, Nick Dacos is his favourite player. Then Collingwood buy into it with their banner. So that is fantastic. The unfortunate thing is they're both out with concussion protocols for 21 days after the field. So they've had an unbelievable day. And the ugly is I've just got word that Texas bought a house in the Barkly region in Tennant Creek, which just happens to be Collingwood's NGA.
Stop it.
Just watch on that.
Is that a John Ralph exclusive?
That's a John Ralph exclusive.
I'd be very surprised if that
All right, Buck, start us off with the good.
Yeah, well, Shannon Neal I thought was excellent. A little bit about the Cats' forward play. There was a lot of focus on Jeremy Cameron, who had almost no forward 50 presence. Was up the ground a little bit more, and Shannon Neal and a couple of his other mates there, Dangerfield at 4, Sean Manor, who was up at stoppages and then got back, were in front of Jeremy Cameron. So Shannon Neal stood up when required, and the Cats debunked the myth about
They've been told to stop picking a gender.
Well, they probably just focused on winning the game.
Look at that, 3 times. Well, the good for me and Brownie, we love young key forwards coming through the midst. We've had Logan Morris, we've seen Cal Shadir, and Job Shanahan is one that is just bobbing up for the West Coast Eagles. He debuted after the bye here, and chatting to Andrew McQualter on the weekend at the game yesterday, they have very big hopes for this young man. He reminds me of Mitch Georgiadis. I love the way that he comes at the ball, Brownie.
Future entrant into the key forward mafia, potentially.
Cannot wait.
Not just yet, though. I tell you, in the key defensive mafia, Mark Keane leading the charge. King mentioned last night about the back six, but Leigh came in today. Said, what about the Crows back six? They have been fantastic, but they are unheralded. You coach Mark Keane. He's been a revelation, hasn't he, Bucks? Why'd you get rid of him?
He's done extremely well. He was a bit homesick, went back to County Cork for a little while.
That's right.
And I think after walking out from the club a couple of times, he probably thought to his manager, I don't really think I can go back there. You got anywhere else for me to go? But no, like he's been phenomenal, and some of the ways that he's gone about it, his intercept marking, he's actually a really good user. And he's got a good ground level play with the Gaelic background. So he's come on well and been a revelation for the Crows the last couple of years.
Bucks, you're bad.
Yes, my bad is you, mate.
What?
So this is what came up in the call.
I self-reported it too.
Let's just, this is sound on tape. Yeah, mate, we'll get that covered. But listen to some of Jack's best work here on the weekend.
His lob takes one on through the middle. Hoff, big contest in the middle. There's a dog down. We'll get back to that shortly.
Is it Darcy?
Lockie McNeil down there.
Couldn't be any further from Sam Darcy.
Didn't want to say anything. Hard to tell the height of a bloke when he's on the ground.
Yes, optical illusion, Mark.
So that's you dobbing yourself in. It's pretty so McNeil goes back, McNeil goes down.
Close in
Surely
height.
it's McNeil.
There's just one ruler length in them, isn't there?
That's a bad.
That's an inch in the old, isn't it? 24
Let's get the move. We've got to get the
yeah, we do. I'm not going to go into measurements. Tex Walker, we're not going to try and get Tex suspended at this important time of the year. But last week, Shield was suspended from Essendon. Not much difference in this, and the potential to cause injury is significant. He came down hard, Fogarty, and I thought he might have been hurt. But, yeah, geez, we've got to be a bit more consistent with this rule. Tex was let out.
Between that and the Shield.
Well, that's right. There was a week's suspension. There wasn't even a fine for that. So that was dangerous play to me.
We're on the cusp of finals, boys, and the score review. That is bad from the game on the weekend. Melbourne versus Hawthorn. We've spoken about the last 3 goals. This was not a goal. In no facet was this a goal. The Hawks didn't think it was a goal. Melbourne didn't think it was a goal. The only person that thought it was a goal was the goal umpire. And I don't know if anyone was in the arc in the early game on the weekend, because that is touched.
Just think it's back.
And we're going to have 4th position potentially talked about as a percentage. And we've given up something like that on the eve of finals. I hope it doesn't.
A bit like you on a Super Saturday. Don't start early anymore, mate.
Right, give us your ugly, Brownie.
The Crows are just holding the ball. The incident happened on the weekend. This has been happening a little bit, a bit of a trend. So this is a warning shot for the umpires. Don't let this happen going into finals, OK? That has got to be holding the ball. The umpire's in a good position, clearly. Get rid of this weekend. If you do see it, bang, holding the ball. We do not want to see this in a final series.
Well, I hate to umpire bash, Brownie, but this on the weekend caught my eye and also caught my ear.
Secure right.
St Kilda ruck. No, St Kilda ruck. No, Mason. Play on.
What has happened there? There's no St Kilda ruck, no St Kilda ruck. No, Mason. Mason wins the hit out. And Mason Redmond looks around the umpire and goes, what's going on? So that is ugly. We've got to fix that. I'll tell you one thing that is not ugly. Next Thursday night, we'll have the All-Australian Awards right here on Fox.
There's a lot of great performers every season. We are looking for players who've had what we deem as All-Australian years. There's too many to get down to the squad of 44, let alone the team of 22. We make sure that we respect the process. The debate's always pretty fierce.
Celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should.
Still no footage of the great Leigh Matthews singing there, but it is time to sing the praises. And Leigh, you are going to kick us off.
Well, I want to sing the praise of Marcus Bonampelli to cheer him up. Because today he's miserable. Because he's discovered he's $1 million underpaid compared to Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera. He is a top-notch match winner, probably as good as any player in the game, but he's about $1 million a year underpaid.
Very good, Bucks.
I've got Harris Andrews. I think he's been in rare form. He's just been brilliant with the way that he's gone about it, intercept marking, and really, you know, sides need to do a lot of homework to try and buffer his strengths and what he brings to the table. I think he's playing with great enjoyment as well. Like, you can see the energy that the Brisbane Lions have and the enjoyment they're having. And this, I think this was three-quarter time. This is standing directly behind the coach, impersonating the coach for his teammates.
That's great.
He's been huge since Jack Payne's been out.
Well, it might not have gone that well with me, but footy's changed, Bucks. Footy's changed.
Brownie's behind you. Just that footage.
A few of the boys used to impersonate me, don't we? Leper, Sharma. Harry Shees was fantastic on the weekend. He 54 disposals, so equal most all-time of disposals, equalling Tom Mitchell in 2018, the year he won the Brownlow. Second youngest North player to record 15-plus score involvements. Flick over there. And second North Melbourne player, 15-plus contested possession, 15-plus score involvements, 2 goals. I don't know who the other players are. I reckon it'd be Wayne Carey. Just a bit of a guess. My research had the day off, so well done to Harry Sheasel.
Yeah, amazing what you do when you run around on your own. Luke Bruce.
Wow. Danger.
Luke Bruce on the weekend. He's retiring, Luke Bruce, an ex-teammate of yours. And I love Luke Bruce. This goal was fantastic. Came on as sub. Nick Watson subbed out, but I'm going to miss seeing Gunston and Bruce together in their relationship, but he is a modern-day great as a small forward. There's only a few in front of him, the great Eddie Betts. And I think he's nearly second or third on that list, Geordie.
Yep, he's nearly top 50 all-time goal scorers. I've gone Travis Boak. So Port Adelaide's last game of the season, Travis Boak's last game of his career. So for the 387th time, he'll run out onto Adelaide Oval. So if you're a Port Adelaide fan, get along and salute what has been an absolute champion, not only of your club, but certainly the AFL. So well done to Boakey for an unbelievable career.
It has been an unbelievable career, and we look forward to seeing him and Ken going out together in front of a packed house at Adelaide
Big game.
Oval. Big round 24 coming up, and we'll catch you next week right here on the couch.